My boss told me. You'll be broke within 6 months. I said, we'll see. 3 years later, I bought his house at foreclosure. He showed up crying with his lawyer. I don't usually post stuff like this, but honestly, this one's been sitting in my chest for way too long. I'm 38 now. Been grinding in my field for over 15 years. You know how it is, you put your head down, you do your job, you play the game. And for the most part, I never made waves. I was never the office drama guy. Never the loudmouth. Just did my work, hit my numbers, built good relationships. But the thing nobody tells you? Sometimes playing it straight doesn't save you from people who get off on pulling power trips. And that's exactly the kind of boss I had to deal with. The man thought he was some Wall Street shark type. Like every minor success of his was proof he was untouchable. Big suits, expensive watches, loud phone calls where he'd make sure everyone heard how important his deals were. Whatever. I've seen guys like him my whole career, insecure dudes hiding behind titles and leased cars. But he crossed the line when he started playing games with my future. And I'll be real with you, that's when I stopped playing nice. You don't threaten a man's ability to feed his family and expect him to roll over. That's not how I'm built. And before we go deeper, if you like hearing real stories like this, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Helps a ton. Alright, let's get into how my boss thought he could bury me, and ended up crying outside his own house 3 years later. So here's the setup. I was working at this mid-sized investment firm. Not one of the big dogs, but we handled decent accounts. I'd been there close to 7 years, worked my way up from a nobody junior analyst to managing a decent book of business. I brought in new clients, kept existing ones happy, never missed my targets. Bottom line, I was making the company real money. And let's be clear, my boss, let's call him Greg, took full credit for all of it. Of course he did. That's what guys like Greg do. Every client I landed? Team effort. Every problem I solved? Good leadership. Every late night I stayed grinding? Company loyalty. Whatever. That was the game. I didn't even care at first. I figured, fine, as long as my pay reflects my work, I don't need a pat on the back. But you know how that always goes. 1 year, we get bought out by a bigger firm. Suddenly there's restructuring, efficiency audits, all the usual corporate buzzwords. And Greg? This clown sees it as his shot to start swinging the axe. His logic? If he cuts enough people, he looks like a hero saving costs. And guess who he decides to target? Yeah, me. The guy who was carrying half his damn client list. So one day he calls me into his office. No warning. No heads up. Just this fake serious tone like he's about to deliver world-shattering news. He leans back in his chair like he's auditioning for some bad Netflix drama and goes, I've been reviewing performance and I just don't think you have what it takes long-term. You're too ambitious. You're not really management material. I literally sat there for a second, staring at this dude. Like, are you serious right now? I'm the reason you're even in management, buddy. But I kept my cool. I just said, all right. You sure about that? And that's when he drops the line that stuck with me for the next 3 years. Word for word. You'll be broke within 6 months. Guys like you don't survive out there. Honestly, in that moment, something inside me flipped. Not rage. Not panic. Just this cold clarity. I wasn't gonna argue. I wasn't gonna beg. I was gonna make damn sure those words came back to haunt him. Alright, so after Greg dropped that little gem, you'll be broke in 6 months. I just stood up, straightened my jacket, and told him, we'll see. That's all. No screaming, no slamming doors. I walked out of his office like I was walking out of a bad first date. Honestly, I think that rattled him more than if I flipped out. Guys like him, they expect drama. They feed on it. But when you stay calm, that plants fear. Anyway, the second I was out, I started moving. See, what Greg never knew was I'd been planning my exit for months already. I saw the writing on the wall when the buyout happened. I'd quietly been building my own little client list on the side, friends of clients, ex-coworkers, referrals. Nothing shady, no contracts broken, but I kept my options open. And when Greg pushed me out, I flipped the switch. LLC paperwork? Already filed. Office lease? Already signed. Website? Launched next day. The few clients who followed me? Let's just say they were highly motivated to leave Greg behind. You don't screw over the guy who actually manages your money and expect clients to stick with you. And while Greg was busy playing corporate tough guy, I was busy building. Now, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Those first 6 months? Brutal. 70-hour weeks, no weekends, constant hustle. But here's the thing, when you've got that kind of fire under you, when you've got some clown's words ringing in your head, you'll be broke in 6 months. It sharpens you. Every dollar I made felt personal. Every contract signed felt like another brick laid in the wall I was building between me and Greg's dumb little prediction. And you know what? 6 months came. And I wasn't broke. I was stable. Then a year passed, and I was growing. Honestly, I don't think Greg even knew I was still around at that point. That's how little he thought of me. But I knew exactly what he was up to. I kept tabs. His department was bleeding clients. Some quietly moved to me, some left altogether. His bonuses started shrinking. And here's where it gets really fun. Turns out, Greg wasn't as good at managing his personal finances as he was at running his mouth. Big mortgage, stupid car leases, private school tuition for his kids, vacations he couldn't afford, all on the assumption his fat salary would never dry up. Spoiler, it did. About 2 years into my run, I started hearing from my old contacts that Greg's position was shaky. Corporate was breathing down his neck about performance. The new owners weren't impressed. And me? My firm was lean, profitable, and hungry. And I was just getting started. About 2.5 years in, my phone rings. It's one of my guys from the old company. He's whispering like he's in a damn spy movie. He goes, "Dude, Greg's in deep. They're talking layoffs, major restructuring. Word is, they're pushing him out." I just chuckled. Honestly, it was beautiful. See, when guys like Greg operate for years thinking they're untouchable, they build this little fantasy world where nothing bad can ever happen to them. Until, it does. And when that reality starts crashing down, they're never ready. Anyway, fast forward maybe 2 months, and boom, it happens. Greg gets canned. Not early retirement. Not mutual separation. Straight up fired. And now here's where karma starts dressing up real fancy. Because guess who was quietly buying up some commercial real estate around town? Yeah, me. One property in particular? The office building Greg's firm used to lease space from. So not only was I running my own business stronger than ever, I was collecting rent from the same damn place where Greg used to bark orders at me. I mean, honestly, you can't write this stuff. And it gets even better, because like clockwork, Greg being Greg, he burns through his savings fast. I hear through mutuals that his wife was shocked they had to downsize. Shocking, right? Private schools? Gone. Fancy cars? Gone. Vacations? Nope. And then the house hits the market. Now listen, I wasn't even hunting for his house. But when I saw that address pop up on my realtor's list, bro, it was like the universe was sending me a personal invitation. The guy who once sat across from me sneering, "You'll be broke in 6 months," was now listing his overpriced suburban palace at a desperate discount. So yeah, I made my move. Quietly. Through a shell company. No drama. No chest thumping. All paperwork. And once the sale closed, that's when it really got sweet. Because Greg found out who the new owner was at the final walkthrough. I didn't even need to say anything. I just stood there, nodded once, hands in my pockets, while his realtor awkwardly tried to keep things professional. Greg's face? Pure panic covered in fake politeness. And his wife? Man, you could feel the hatred oozing off her like cheap perfume. She actually whispered to him, thinking I couldn't hear. "You said he'd be broke." "Yeah. About that." Couple months after I officially closed on Greg's house, I get this email. Guess who? Yep. Greg. Subject line. Professional discussion. Honestly, I almost laughed right there. Guy goes from firing me like I'm some disposable intern to now calling for professional discussions. Whatever. I open it up, and it's basically a long-winded, passive-aggressive mess where he's hoping we can chat about potential business opportunities and ways to collaborate for mutual benefit. Translation? The dude's desperate. His little empire fell apart faster than his ego could process, and now he's sniffing around, trying to see if I'll throw him a lifeline. That same guy who told me, "You'll be broke in 6 months. The nerve. I left it sitting for a few days, let him stew. Then I replied with one sentence. "We can meet, but my schedule's tight." Just enough to keep him on the hook. We meet up at this steakhouse downtown. He's already there when I walk in, sitting straight, faking confidence, but you could see the sweat under his collar. "Hey, good to see you, man," he says like we're old friends. I sit, give him a flat smile. "You wanted to talk?" He starts feeding me some story about how he's looking to pivot, the market's unpredictable, and maybe there's room for us to work together. Bro, the entire time he's talking, I'm just sipping my drink, thinking, you built your whole career acting like you were untouchable. Now you're the one pitching me. Then he drops it. I know things got tense back then, but you've done well for yourself. I think with my experience and your resources, we could build something huge. Honestly, I couldn't believe he said it that way. Like somehow his experience still held value after he tanked 2 businesses and defaulted on his mortgage. So I leaned forward and said, Greg, you fired me because you thought I was too ambitious. That was your exact wording, right? He clears his throat, gives that awkward fake chuckle. Well, you know, I may have been a bit short-sighted at the time. I stared at him for a second, then said, yeah, you were. And the difference between us is, I learned. You didn't. He tried to save face with some nervous smile, but at that point, it was done. He knew it. I knew it. Greg, I'm not interested. You had your shot. I stood up, dropped 100 on the table, and said, consider this dinner my treat. You'll need it. And I walked out. Left him sitting there, staring at his empty glass like it held the answers to all his failures. That was the moment I fully realized, sometimes you don't even need revenge. You just need patience. A few weeks after that dinner, I start hearing stuff through the grapevine. Turns out Greg's financial situation was even worse than I thought. Not just the house, dude was drowning. Loans, defaulted payments, suppliers chasing him, legal threats piling up. Basically, the whole domino setup collapsing right on his head. And you know what? I didn't even lift a finger. Honestly, that's the part people don't get. You don't always have to swing the hammer. Just wait. They self-destruct better than you ever could. Now here's where it gets real funny. His wife, yeah, the same one who used to brag at company parties about how Greg's building a legacy. Well, she apparently dipped the second the money dried up. Clean break. Took the kids, filed for separation. My guy was spiraling fast. One afternoon, out of nowhere, I get a text from an unknown number. Please, I need to talk. I've made mistakes. I didn't even respond right away. Let him sit with that desperation for a while. The next day, phone rings. Private number. I pick up. Hey, listen. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I'm out of options. It's Greg, voice shaky like he's trying not to break down. Everything's falling apart, man. I just thought maybe you could help. Maybe there's something we can work out. I stayed dead silent for a second, then calmly asked, work out what, exactly? He starts rambling, trying to piece together some half-baked plan where I invest into some new venture he's trying to start. Honestly, I almost laughed out loud. The man went from firing me with a smirk to now straight up begging for a handout. So I said, Greg, you remember when you fired me? When you told me I'd be broke in 6 months? He mumbled, yeah. I know I was wrong, man. I cut him off right there. No, you weren't wrong. You were arrogant. And now you're paying for it. There was this dead pause on the other end. He tried to sound humble, but I could feel the anger under his fake polite tone. I just thought you might want to help an old friend out. Friend? Really, bro? That's the word you're going for now. I let him talk himself into a corner, then finished it. Greg, this isn't personal. You made your choices. You live with them. Good luck. Click. That was it. No more calls after that. But the best part? Couple weeks later, his house, the one I now owned, finally hit the market after foreclosure, and guess who scooped it up? Yep. I closed on it without blinking. Cash deal. Done. Guy lost everything, and now he gets to watch me drive past his old driveway anytime I feel like it. That's not revenge, man. That's just life balancing the books. Alright, so by this point, I figured we were done. Greg was out, the house was mine, and karma had already done most of the heavy lifting. But nah, some people don't know when to quit. About a month later, I'm at a business lunch, nothing fancy, just closing a deal with some vendors, and my buddy leans in, like, hey man, you seen what Greg's pulling now? I raise an eyebrow like, what now? He's selling timeshares from his car? My buddy slides me his phone, it's a screenshot from some startup pitch site. And there it is, Greg's face, plastered all over some desperate new venture. Basically, he was trying to launch this BS consulting firm, promising to help small businesses avoid bankruptcy. Bro. The irony almost made me spit out my drink. This clown who tanked his own company is now pretending to be some expert on financial survival? You can't make this up. Now here's where it gets fun. One of my newer business partners happens to be in commercial real estate, the exact sector Greg's targeting for his new scam. And he's already gotten emails from Greg, pitching these laughable partnership opportunities. My guy asks me straight up, "You want me to play dumb and bait him?" I'm like, "Honestly? Yeah. Let's have a little fun with it." So we set up a fake meeting, full conference room, full pitch deck. Greg shows up, dressed like he's still playing CEO, with that fake confidence like nothing ever happened. He starts his little presentation, charts, numbers, buzzwords, you name it. I'm sitting in the corner just watching him sweat through that cheap suit. After about 20 minutes, my partner interrupts him, goes, "Interesting, but there's one problem." Greg freezes. My partner smiles and says, "The property this whole pitch is based on? The financials you're projecting? That's owned by him." He points straight at me. Greg's face went white. For a second, I honestly thought he might pass out. He stammers, "Wait, what? This isn't personal, right?" I finally speak. "No, Greg, it's not personal. It's business. You know, like you said to me 3 years ago." He tries to mumble something, but honestly, at that point, there was nothing left to say. His whole little fantasy collapsed right in that conference room, in front of everybody. I stood up, straightened my jacket, and added, "You should probably stop emailing my partners. Just a friendly tip." And we walked out, left him sitting there like the sad, broke man he had become. You see, that's the thing nobody tells you. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's just that slow, cold dismantling that leaves them sitting in silence, realizing they built their own noose. And just when I thought the circus was finally over, my phone lights up again. This time, his lawyer. Not mine, Greg's. His attorney honestly sounded like a man who hadn't slept in 2 nights, surviving only on caffeine and pure panic. "Look, my client wants to resolve this without any more escalation." Oh, really? Now that his clown startup crashed before landing a single real client, he suddenly wants to de-escalate. I didn't even reply right away. I just forwarded him my attorney's number. Let the professionals talk it out. I had better things to do, like drink my coffee in peace. Honestly, I was enjoying watching his little house of cards collapse. But of course, guys like him always have one last card up their sleeve. About a week later, I get a certified letter, official lawsuit. He figured he tried to drag me into court for emotional distress and lost income because I sabotaged his promising career. You serious? The same guy who wrecked every opportunity handed to him now wanted to play victim. Fine. I gave my attorney the green light. Have fun with it, man. My lawyer loves this kind of crap. He lives for tearing weak cases apart. Meanwhile, I kept running my business. Revenue kept climbing, investors were happy, my team was locked in. And Greg? His accounts started getting frozen. IRS audits, debt collectors, liens. My attorney would shoot me little updates from time to time. Greg's lawyer filed for a delay. Denied. They attempted settlement talks again. We declined. Judge laughed at their argument. Every update was better than Netflix, honestly. Then, right before the final hearing, I get another call, this time from an old finance contact of ours. "Bro, you know his house is getting foreclosed next month?" I lean back in my chair, smiling. "Oh, really? Which one?" He sent me the address. That flashy house Greg loved to flex all over social media. The same house where he threw his big victory parties. Honestly, it was too perfect. I didn't need long to think about it. Made a few calls, got my people involved through a third party. Quietly bought the house at auction before it even hit the public list. Greg didn't even know I was the one who now held the title. All that was left now was to wait for the final move. So here we are. Foreclosure day. I show up, low-key, nothing flashy. Just me, my attorney, and my finance guy sitting in the back like we're watching a damn live performance. The foreclosure auction moves fast. Honestly, you blink and it's done. His house? Snatched up for less than half of what he originally overleveraged it for. And the best part? None of the other bidders even knew who they were up against because I kept everything behind proxies. No public record, no paper trail with my name attached, just like I planned it. Afterward, my guy turns to me and goes, "That's officially yours now." I smiled. Yeah. Let's see how long it takes him to figure it out. And man, it didn't take long. Fast forward 3 weeks, eviction notice hits his mailbox. And now it's finally starting to click for him. He's panicking. Suddenly I'm getting calls from unknown numbers. Texts from random burner phones. Even mutual friends getting roped into the drama. "Hey man, Greg's trying to get in touch, says it's urgent. Yeah? I bet it is. Then, one morning, this is where it gets beautiful, my doorbell rings. I check the camera. It's him. And not just him, he's standing there with his lawyer, both of them looking like they haven't slept in days. Bags under their eyes, ties all crooked, desperation practically dripping off them. I open the door like I don't already know exactly why they're here. Greg starts rambling immediately. Listen, man, this whole thing's gotten way out of hand. Maybe we can work something out before it goes any further. I just stare at him for a second and say flat. Further? Bro, we passed further 6 months ago. His lawyer steps in, trying to play mediator, throwing out lines like, we're open to discussing potential settlements, perhaps even a buyback option if you're willing to be reasonable. I almost laughed right there. You mean you want me to sell you back the house I legally own, that you defaulted on, with money you don't even have? His lawyer starts stuttering, Greg's face turns pale. And then Greg finally snaps. Come on, man! You wouldn't even have half of this without me. I made you. That right there? That was the moment I'd been waiting for. I kept my voice steady. You didn't make me, Greg. You made this mess. I just bought it. His lawyer tried one last desperate Hail Mary. If we can't resolve this amicably, we may be forced to pursue litigation. I raised my eyebrow. You've already tried that. You lost. Multiple times. And then I just closed the door in his face. Clean. Simple. No more conversation. Honestly, I stood there for a few seconds afterward just taking it in, watching two grown men standing on my porch, looking like they got hit by a freight train they never even saw coming. A few days after slamming the door in his face, I figured maybe, just maybe, that would finally shut him up. But nah. People like Greg? They don't learn until they hit absolute rock bottom. And apparently, we hadn't quite reached that level yet. Because next thing I know, he's trying to run this little smear campaign behind my back. He starts calling up some of our old contacts, playing the victim card hard. He's trying to ruin me. He's obsessed. He's bitter because I let him go. One of my buddies sends me a screenshot from a group chat where Greg's literally spinning this story like I'm some psycho ex-employee with a vendetta. Honestly, I laughed when I saw it. Like, dude, you stole my ideas, fired me, tried to humiliate me, and now you're crying because I legally outplayed you? Spare me. But you know what really sealed it? His desperation finally reached my accountant. Yeah. The same accountant who quietly helped me structure the entire buyout operation in the first place. Greg actually called him directly, not even trying to hide it, asking if there was any way to work something out under the table. My guy called me immediately after, told me word for word how Greg begged him to create a fake partnership on paper so he could technically say he still owned part of the property and negotiate with the bank to stall the foreclosure. He sounded pathetic, man, my accountant said. I replied, that's because he is. So I told my lawyer, let's turn the screws a little tighter. And this is where it got fun. We filed the final ownership transfer with the county, locked in every title, every lien release, every court-verified document. No loopholes. No appeals left. The house was 100% mine now, on paper, in court, in reality. That night, Greg texted me one more time, this long, rambling, pathetic essay about how we were like brothers once. And money shouldn't come between us. I didn't even answer. Because at that point, it was over. What he didn't know, though, was the final nail was already hammered. I had quietly reached out to a developer who had been eyeing his old property for months, and they offered me a fat premium to tear it down and rebuild luxury condos. So not only did I take the house, I sold it for triple what Greg originally bought it for. Clean exit. Full circle. No drama. And Greg? He's still living in some rented apartment across town trying to convince everyone he's taking a break from real estate. 2 weeks after I signed the final sale papers, I figured I was done hearing his name. Honestly, I was ready to just move on, collect my check, keep building my next projects, and leave Greg as nothing but a funny little cautionary tale I'd tell over drinks. But of course, guys like Greg, they don't go quietly. My lawyer calls me one morning, says, "You're not gonna believe this, he's filing for damages." I almost spit my coffee out. Damages? I said. For what? Being bad at business? Apparently Greg was trying to sue me for intentional emotional distress and malicious interference in his financial affairs. The guy was literally trying to argue that by buying his house legally, I had somehow emotionally traumatized him. I sat there just shaking my head. You can't make this stuff up, man, I told my lawyer. But fine. If he wanted one more round, I wasn't exactly worried. My lawyer filed a response so brutal you could probably frame it and sell it as a textbook example of legal beatdowns. We attached every document showing Greg's personal financial negligence, the lawsuits he was already facing from other vendors, the bank foreclosures he ignored for 2 years, and his own text messages where he basically admitted to mismanaging his debts. We buried him in facts, not feelings. 3 days later, his attorney quietly withdrew the case. Honestly, I don't even think his own lawyer believed his garbage anymore. But here's the best part. A month after that little stunt, I'm at this real estate conference. Not even looking for drama, just shaking hands, networking, doing my thing. Suddenly one of my old clients comes up and says, "Hey man, Greg's here too. But he's, different now." I turn around, and there he is, standing at the back like some ghost, watching me while I'm on stage. Same guy who once laughed in my face and told me I'd be broke in 6 months. Now? Couldn't even make eye contact. Honestly, I almost felt bad for half a second. Almost. But then I remembered that this whole thing? He built it. Brick by brick. Ego by ego. And I just finished what he started. That's the thing people like Greg never understand. It's not about revenge. It's about cleaning up the mess they swore would never catch up to them. And trust me, it always does. Couple months after the conference, I figured everything was finally put to bed. You'd think after getting publicly humbled, losing his house, his business, his court case, Greg would finally get the hint. But nah. Some people just don't have that self-awareness gene installed. I start hearing from mutual contacts that he's floating rumors around town. Little jabs like, "He got lucky, he stole my company." Or my personal favorite, "He sabotaged me from the start." Honestly, man, you gotta admire the consistency. Even flat on his face, still trying to rewrite the story. Whatever. That noise didn't bother me. His reputation was already radioactive. People weren't taking meetings with him. Banks wouldn't touch him. And vendors? Forget it. Word gets around fast when you stiff that many people for that long. Meanwhile, I kept doing my thing, growing new businesses, buying more properties, quietly stacking. But Greg? He just kept circling the drain. Then, and I swear to you I couldn't script this better, I bump into him randomly at a coffee shop about a year later. Just me, grabbing my black coffee, minding my business. And there he is, standing in line, pretending he doesn't see me. But you know how it is. There's that awkward moment where both guys catch eye contact, and now it's too late to pretend. He gives me this weak little nod. I nod back, sip my coffee, and say, "Still waiting on that 6 months to run out, Greg." Dead silence. His jaw twitched but nothing came out. Just a half smile like he wanted to say something clever but couldn't find it. I didn't give him the satisfaction. I just turned, walked out, and let him sit there with it. And that's pretty much where it ends. No screaming. No drama. Just a guy standing in line at a coffee shop, quietly haunted by the fact that his favorite punching bag ended up owning the ring. Honestly? Best part is I didn't even need revenge. I just needed patience. Life handled the rest.